Welcome to the first episode of our 2022 Retrospective series, everybody. This series will be something a bit different, as we'll be looking back at everything we did in 2022 and giving our hot takes on everything. But before we get to all of that, here's what to expect in the call to action.
After the episode, you can join us to hear about new things coming in 2023. Very exciting things. Patron thank yous, and even a new review.
Ooh.
A special little Christmas gift.
I know.
That's all that we have to start the year off. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us all of 2022. And enjoy the show. Welcome to the first series of 2023. Are we going to number this? And it's not really series 58.
I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, so we're doing
Because in the past,
things
when we did our recast, we didn't number those.
right. We are
And we
doing
didn't
things a little
number
differently
our like
now.
Q&A as a series.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like a bonus series, so to speak. Yeah,
Yes.
so maybe it'll be a bonus series question mark. Who knows?
Yeah.
So mysterious.
I know. So welcome to the first bonus series of 2023, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and today my co-host Ryan and I are going to do a fun little recap of 2022
Yeah.
and talk about maybe some things that we're looking forward to in 2023.
Yeah.
We've never really gotten to do like an annual recap before.
Mhm.
So we are excited. We've spent the last hour and a half or so going through and
Yeah.
looking at everything that we did in 2022, reliving some favorite moments. And
Yep.
so we're going to let you relive some of that as well. We are going to start we want to do a little recap of everything that we did in 2022
Yeah.
because it was a lot.
We did so
and I
much in
think-
2022.
I think later this week we're going to try and release a bonus episode where we do some clips of like the character intros because we were having a lot of fun re-listening to those,
Mhm.
and we'd really love to share them with people.
Absolutely.
Just that beginning of part 3 of each series where we reintroduced the characters that we made. Because there's some really fantastic stuff in there that just I had completely forgotten about
Uh-huh.
in a lot of cases. So yeah, but right now I think Ryan and I would like to really just kind of talk about each game,
Yeah.
discuss the characters that we made,
Yes.
some things we love, some things we are excited about. So yeah, I mean, so let's go ahead and just start with January. So January 2022.
Yeah, so we did Trash Mob with Melody, aka Mother Multiverse. This was a fantastic game where you play individuals that are isekai'd into a video game.
Yes.
And you play as just the mobs. You play as the trash mobs that the heroes would just go and like farm for experience for hours and hours. But
yeah, this was an interesting one where we actually played the leveling up process too, because
Yeah.
that's like, I mean, that was like a main mechanic of the game. Character
Mhm.
creation itself is pretty tiny and enclosed.
yes.
But we went through and rolled to find out what we would get at each subsequent level to kind of see
That
where
was a
we
lot of
ended
fun.
up.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a really interesting mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my character, I made Lydia Frost,
Uh-huh.
who was a Yu-Gi-Oh champion on
Yes.
the competitive card game circuit.
Of course.
Yes. And I was turned into a snake.
You were.
was.
I forgot the name of my character, but I was an undercover pop star at a cosplay convention. That we were all going to a cosplay convention in the
Right.
plane when the plane went
When the plane
down.
crashed, yeah.
And because of our actions during that tragedy, we got isekai'd into this video game, and my character turned into a majestic goose.
I don't know like we literally just wrote this in the outline, and by the time we'd written it, I'd completely forgotten that yes, you turned into a goose.
I'm pretty sure I had a knife.
Yes, you did. You did, because when I made the art, I added that in there.
And I think one of my goals was being able to cast fireballs. Like
that sounds right.
I don't know if I got there, but that was definitely on the list of things to do. Is goose casting fireball.
Yes, because we thought that would be a really great visual for sure. I have in my notes that we saved a city by like averting this plane crash. So we crashed in these snowy mountains.
Yes, I
remember. But we'd saved the city by sort of averting the plane crash. We were lost in the barren wastes.
Yeah.
In the cavern of carved idols.
Oh yeah, yeah. They threw us into this video game world where we were in the frozen wastes basically. And that's where we had to figure out how to survive and level up. And so this series we went through that leveling up process and made a little bit of fanfic along the way of like why certain things were the way they were. Right.
I know that. Yeah, I picked like acid attacks and like disease, like elemental kind of attacks.
You had all the attacks.
Every chance I got. Yeah, I had like all attacks. Yeah. I had, my character's name, my new life name was Aeon.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Yeah.
I think my new name might have been Aria, if I remember correctly, because I think my goose wanted to be a bard, basically. She wanted to.
That's right.
She wanted to be like a superstar, pop star in this video game world.
Right.
That was like her ultimate goal. I think she became the face of the party too, being able to communicate with other people as well. We were able to communicate with ourselves, but not with others at first, which is this game is just pretty. It sounds like a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun with character creation. I highly recommend checking that series out if you haven't yet. It was so good. It was a great way to start off the year, I think.
Yeah, it was very different than a lot of stuff that we've covered. Just the way the like leveling worked and sort of just like getting a new attack at every single level and you know, like rolling for what you get.
I know.
It was very interesting. It was very interesting, very different from a lot of stuff that we've covered. It was very cool.
Absolutely.
February. We wanted to discuss a romantic game. Yeah. That was our goal originally. We're like, it needs to be a game with kissing, right? Because it's Valentine's.
Yeah, this game has kissing and then some.
Right. So February, we discussed Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and our guest was designer April Kit Walsh. We made this like space traveling group.
Yes.
My character was named Amaranth. I took the Spooky Witch playbook. I could talk to souls. Could kind of see them as these like orb things.
Yes.
And I also had this companion soul that followed me around, but it couldn't be seen by anyone else, which was distinct from some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Because our ship was it powered by souls or something?
It was
like
powered
that?
by souls. Yep. I think the Soul Eater was the name of the ship of the bad guys.
That sounds right.
And I think ours was the Solar Flare.
It was
S-O-U-L.
because April was playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, April played the ship, the sentient ship, and I played Ariella the Legion, basically a magical girl. In this universe, and she was able to transform into her magical girl self, but by pulling on the power and knowledge from thousands of lifetimes previous to her, where her soul has been reincarnated over and over and over throughout the ages.
Yeah,
and I think I remember like to stop that from happening, she would have to feed her past souls into one of these ships or something.
Yeah, there was something about, like, souls being this energy source. And I know that, like, my character had really complicated feelings about that because I could talk to these souls.
Yes.
And it was... We also had this enemy named Evangeline.
Evangeline, sweet Evangeline.
Yes. And I wanted specifically to get revenge against Evangeline. I have in my notes, why revenge? So I don't know that we ever came up with that.
Everyone wanted to kiss Evangeline, though.
Right. I thought she was the most normal person we'd ever come across. So, some real mixed feelings.
I know.
Also had a bone sword. I just want to put that out there. I had a bone sword. Because you do have to pick your sword.
Yeah. Gosh, it was just, it was such a good game. Like, the mechanics and stuff in this game are amazing. Like, the moves in this game are amazing. And April was such a good guest.
Yes. I always love when we can have game designers on our show. I'm sure we're going to say that like a bunch more times because we did have a lot of designers on. We did have a lot of designers. Of this season. It was really, really cool. It's another PBTA game, which we've covered a lot of.
Yes.
And so I know, I don't want to say I was hesitant about that going into it because I was really excited about this game.
Right.
And, having the designer on and everything. But the moves, I think, really made this one, as they do in any PBTA game, but I think it really kind of set it apart.
Yeah.
I like snails.
I like snails.
When you are smitten with someone and figure them out, blurt out something weird and let them ask you a question from the list. Then ask them another question from the list, even on a 6-. So I just love that, like, one of the mechanics of my character is just being, like, super awkward and just being, like, like blurting out the first thing that you think of when you're, like, in love with somebody. The smitten mechanic just, like, it was brilliant.
I love the smitten mechanic. Yeah, this game is just so brilliant. I know it won a whole bunch of awards and well-deserved at that.
Absolutely.
And the stuff that we came up with the fanfic, the stuff that we came up with for our characters and for the world building was just phenomenal this episode.
Yeah, I think I'm always, a thing that I kind of get excited about PBTA games is, and we talked about this in our Chimera episode, that one of the things PBTA does is genre.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a thing and it just does that thing.
Yes.
Which obviously has been the challenge for you with Chimera, is that you're like, but what if all the genres? What if? But this one, it's its own genre. Like, Thirsty Sword Lesbians is not, your traditional, like, urban fantasy, superhero, like the things that even telenovela with Pasión de las Pasiones. It's different, but it really leans into that concept. And I know we got into what if not thirsty, what if not sword, what if not lesbian. And April was like, but you watch, you're gonna end up there. Like, you can play any of those things, but, like, first of all, why would you want to? And you're gonna, like, it's gonna end up there, which I think is a sign of a really good PBTA game, is that even if you're trying to play against the genre, you sort of end up really invested in it.
Absolutely. And such an apropos game for February as well.
Yes. Yes.
This is a very good game. Very good possibility it can turn into a very spicy game as well. But it's just one of those games that I love, and it was such a good series. So I all of these were such a good series. You're gonna hear me say that a lot.
We're gonna say that about well, most.
I think I know what one you're looking at.
Wait till we get to April. March, we covered Kids on Brooms, again with designers, Jonathan Gilmore and Doug Lewandowski.
Yes.
This one, Ryan and I earlier had to listen back to kind of remember, like, our characters. I had my character sheet, but Ryan didn't have his handy. And just listening to the descriptions of things that we made. And the thing that I remembered most from making this was that one of the world building questions in the beginning is you have to pick two things and combine to make into a sport
Yes.
that you play at your magical school. And Ryan had suggested volleyball.
Yep.
Like that made sense. And I was like, I'm thinking like an Iron Chef competition kind of a thing. So we developed Volleyball Iron Chef, which was so wonderfully named Ready, Set, Serve.
So good.
And our team was perpetually number 2 in the league for Ready, Set, Serve. And that was my character's goal, was to finally bring us to number 1.
Yeah, break that streak.
Yeah, Amy Catherine Boyd, the reliable bestie.
Oh, so good.
Had spent most of her life being in second place and was really hoping that this was the chance to be first place at something.
I know.
And just...
yeah.
Oh, God, it's so good.
So good. And I know Amy Catherine Boyd's best friend was my character, Elvira Whispershanks, the haunted survivor.
Yes.
Yeah, so my character was another magical girl. This was during our magical girl phase, I believe.
Yours.
Yeah, well, our magical girls and necromancer phase kind-of-ish. I kind of combined both of them into this character somehow.
Yeah, there are a couple places where that kind of happened.
So
I think I want to say 2022, I think, was the year where we stopped pretending that we were going to make something else.
We just embraced our brand.
We just really embraced those brands, because I think we kept kind of falling into that. And there was a while where we were like, okay, we should play against type. We should try new things. And then we decided, like, this is a really good experiment of like, can you make your favorite thing in any game? And there are certainly series where we didn't do that, because it just wasn't, what we wanted to do or what fit. But yeah, I think I have to say 2022 was the year that we really embraced that brand. Fun fact for anybody who, didn't catch the announcements earlier in the year or see the art for our 4-year Q&A. We do have Magical Girl Necromancer shirts.
We do.
Available in the One Shot TeePublic store that I put together. Ryan and I made individual designs for ourselves. So Ryan has a Magical Girl one. I have a Necromancer one. But yeah, if you want to also embrace our fire and water, we made shirts this year.
They're so good.
2022 was the year that we stopped pretending we were anything but ourselves.
Well, we have a brand. We'll stick to it. It's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
I do need to make another Dirge Stranglethorn sometime, though.
Yes.
I really do. It's just we got to find the right game for it. And I think once we do, I'll pull out my worst self again and see what happens.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit later when we get to some of our other recap stuff about your struggles with that.
Yeah.
But, no, I thought Kids on Brooms was really interesting. There was some very unique world building stuff in there.
Yeah. Well, the whole Kids On series has phenomenal like world building questions that really you can apply to almost any game that you're using that doesn't have relationship mechanics built into it.
I thought that they were I liked that they were like these really short, very simple questions that were very evocative, though, that like somehow told you a lot about the world. Like, like what sport do you have? We have a sport that's a combination of blank and blank. And it was like that became very central to our school and our situation, this like ranking of Ready, Set, Serve. And it's such a simple, easy question.
Yes.
That like, it's not like, what's the genre? Like, it's not this huge, broad question. It's this tiny little thing, but it's very evocative.
Yes, absolutely. I really liked it. I know I had a little bit of experience world building with Kids on Bikes as well in the past. And they're all really fantastic. I'm really excited for the next game that's coming out as well. So we got to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, that's an updated Kids on Bikes, right? Like a version 2 or
I think there's
second edition.
That there's also
Kids in Capes.
Kids in Capes, yep. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming out there, and Jonathan and Doug were just fantastic.
They were great. We had so much fun.
So much fun. So it would be nice to have them on the shows another time
For sure.
for some other shenanigans.
It'd be fun.
April. I loved this series. Because it was so painful.
It was. So April, we once again had our good friends Jeff and John from System Mastery on the podcast to cover Marvel superheroes.
Our good sadistic friends Jeff.
Right, yeah. We get the opportunity to cover a lot of new and exciting games. And, every so often we do go back to something that's, a few years old or, sort of like I don't want to say classic necessarily, but, something that like is sort of popular, but a little bit older. And then we have our episodes with Jeff and John.
Yep.
And it is always fun to dig into some of those games that are just like classic, but you're not sure why.
Yeah.
like why did we like this? Like why is this the thing that stuck around?
Well, it's the nostalgia factor, right?
Right, for sure. And so we ended up later on taking these characters and converting them into Sentinels characters, which we then played for a stream for Jeff Stormer's Miracle Monday.
Yes.
Charity stream. And that was a lot of fun. I created SP1D3R, the Spider Ranger. We were making Halloween themed Super Sentai characters. It was a thing we did.
Well, it was, and the funny thing is we rolled randomly for all our stuff, right? So we weren't going through and picking powers and what we were. It was like, let's roll on these 100,000 random tables.
We love random rolling, and any chance that we get, we will do that for sure.
And of course, I had to roll the hardest one, the Changeling.
Oh my gosh,
and I had to roll.
And Jeff and John were like, pick something else, roll again.
I just had to stick with it.
And it might be one of the first times in a game where Ryan was like, I don't like this. Because like even when we did Palladium, you were like, this is great. I love this. Like this game is bad, but like I personally love it.
Yeah.
And this might be one of the first times where you were like, this is bad.
This is just so bad. And it's probably because I rolled a Changeling and I rolled the maximum number of forms you could have as a Changeling, which was which of course meant
you had to basically roll 5 different characters.
I had to roll 5 different characters.
The way it works in Marvel is that it's like, okay, you are also this other character type and this other, and it makes you roll full characters for each one.
Yeah, it's so weird. So I became Chase Spectrum, and Chase was an acronym for the different types of characters he was. It was like cyborg, humanoid robot, and then I forget what the rest.
I think like android. And,
no, it was like,
they were like
abnormal chemistry.
Oh, right.
Something else. Yeah, it was really weird. And like he could morph between these forms, but in Marvel superheroes, it took like a minute of actual time to morph from one form to the other.
Right. So you're basically giving up like several rounds of combat.
It was like 10 rounds of combat.
Yeah. It was like, you're like, okay, hold on. I'm going to go step into this alley.
Yeah. So I think what we ended up deciding was it was like my character had an accident in the school lab with nanobots and became infused with nanobots, and that's how I could transform. Right. Worked so much better in Sentinels. That was a lot of fun to play with the different forms and stuff, but like I cannot imagine this character in a Marvel superheroes setting.
I have it up on my iPad because I did like save just this page.
Yeah.
The table from the back of the book. Which goes feeble, poor, typical, good, excellent, remarkable, incredible, amazing, monstrous, unearthly. And then the next three are just shift because they like ran out of things to call them. But it's like how trying to remember the difference between like excellent is not as good as remarkable, which is not as good as incredible, which is not as good as amazing.
Yes.
It was like, could you not differentiate those more? Yes.
So definitely a lot for our brains to wrap around. And it was basically the joy and exasperation from Heroes Unlimited flipped. So like,
yeah, it was more exasperation than joy.
And you had a lot of joy experiencing my exasperation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was a definite factor of schadenfreude in this one of like, do you see what you have put me through?
What have you wrought?
And now you will pay. There's also a base building mechanic in that game, which we did play around with a little bit.
Yeah, it's on our Patreon.
So that is on our Patreon. There's a bonus episode where Ryan and I decided to build a base for these characters as well.
Oh, war. Yeah, well,
which was like
tried
the rules,
to build a base.
Right, the rules were so confusing.
We still don't know. If anybody knows how to build a base in Marvel superheroes, please let us know, because like we tried so hard to do it by the book, and we're like, let's just make up these rules. It's fine.
I think half the episode is you being like, I think you do it this way, and me being like, but it says over here. So yeah, that was one of those moments of like, wow, game design's come really far.
It has. Well, I mean, it had to start somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's fine.
And one of those questions of like, if you started with Marvel superheroes, why are you still here?
Well, speaking of dumpster fires.
And classic games.
Well, I wouldn't say that dumpster fire, because I mean, okay, so we had
we made it a dumpster fire.
Yeah, so we did in May Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition with Aram and Dylan from the Kill Every Monsters podcast.
We decided to celebrate series 50.
Yes.
Of our show by going back to our roots. We started with D&D because we were smart, we're like the SEO, right? So we started with Dungeons and Dragons, and in that one we played base game, rules as written, no supplements. And so we decided it would be really fun to instead this time
all the supplements.
So basically we told Aram and Dylan,
third party or otherwise,
any supplement you want to play, go for it.
Yep.
I went through a lot of my any submissions that I had and put those in a folder for us to look through. And boy, howdy, did that pay off. I believe it's Tales of Arcana.
Yeah, I think it was Tales of Arcana.
Is the name of the book, and it's basically just like 500 some races,
different races that you can play. Yeah. It's wild.
Ryan, do you want to talk about some of the choices you made?
Oh my gosh. So I turned down the Magical Girl race for a very specific reason, because I really wanted to get off the rails. I was purposely being an instigator this epised.
Right. Right. So like we went into this knowing that Aram is a trash monster.
Yes. And I wanted to be a trashier trash monster than Aram.
Wow.
That was my mindset going into it. It was like, I want to make the most unhinged character with these supplements that we can.
That's like major league. Like
it's
to go toe to toe.
I know
with Aram.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think I did well though. So my character was named CAT, KATT. It's an acronym for Night Agents 2000. CAT was a vroom vroom rogue night agent variant. Basically a sentient car, also a super spy.
Yeah. I chose the Digigod race. So I was a digital construct.
Yes.
That was evil. Like one of the things with this race is that you are humanoid, but you are classified as a fiend whenever it is detrimental to you. Which I love as a mechanic. As a person, I love anything that's like whenever it's detrimental to you. It's very cool. I also picked a Blood of the Lost sorcerer from a book called Planet Apocalypse. My character's name was Alexa. It's how you know she's evil. Yeah, and then Aram played this woolly mammoth.
So good.
Yeah,
Johnny Sacks.
Johnny Sacks. And I'm trying to remember what Dylan made. Dylan made something that was like
made an orc chef.
That's right.
Like,
he made an orc chef.
An orc chef. That was it.
Right.
Like the
and
most
when we get
normal
to the fanfic, we are like, how do we make this work? And I think it was one of the first times in fanfic where we were like, I don't think you can.
I still think we had some good ideas.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a way.
Yeah.
But it was one of those, like, the races and classes that we picked were very much doing world building work.
Yes.
And said a lot of things about the world that we made.
Oh my goodness.
That was an absolute blast to record.
So much fun.
Yeah, it really showed what's going on with D&D, like the amount of stuff that is out there.
Yeah.
And also, like, we really talked about some of the constraints of that amount of stuff being available. So, like, there's some really, really great discussion in those episodes. But, it was off the wall.
Oh, it was so good, though. they were longer episodes because we went some places there, and it's also D&D, so there's a lot of stuff going on. But well worthwhile to dive into those.
June is a Ryan game. I have to admit, this one I was just not sure about because I am not into magical girls. Like, that is definitely your jam. And it is a thing that I enable, certainly.
Yep.
But it's just not my thing, and that's, I don't think, a surprise or a shock to anybody.
No.
June, we covered Alchemistresses.
Yes.
With Allison K. Cole and Dora D. Rogers, again, designers of the game. The story we came up with here was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
This one, you kind of play as different versions of yourself. You have a past magical version and then a sort of a current mundane version. And we chose to make the past right now, and then the current was actually in the future.
Yes.
Dora was the Mistress of Earth, and she and my Mistress of Fire worked in a diner called Millennial Times.
Times.
It was a retro throwback diner, but the throwback was to the 2020s. It was fantastic. And we had, these stories of lost love because you're slowly recovering your memories of your magical girl self.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
It was
phenomenal. Yeah.
It feels like Alchemistresses was kind of a turning point for us in the year. Like, it felt like such an impactful episode to us and our show. Yeah. Like that's when we started kind of like really embracing the necromancer versus magical girls thing. It's kind of where we hit our stride with kind of the marketing sort of aspect of things. Like you were creating some art, and the artwork that you did for these episodes was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I started doing playlists more regularly, as inspiration struck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we really kind of played into our fire and water aesthetic.
Yeah.
And just, like, we've always known that we're opposites. Like, it's one of the things that people comment on when they listen to our show. It's a thing that we have always loved about our dynamic, that we sort of accidentally fell into.
Yep.
But yeah, this game, I think we really got to play around with that and really got to solidify that.
I know. Yeah, because
it was just a powerful game. It's like I don't really know what else to say, but like go listen to the episodes.
Yeah, they're so good.
They're so
Yeah, because
good.
I made River and you made Ember.
Yes.
And of course I was the mistress of water in the past and you were the mistress of fire. And I think we had like a relationship in the past or something like that. Or
we did, and you had somehow like failed me.
Yeah.
Or, like failed to be there for me.
Yes.
But we were also like trying to go to prom. That was a big part of what was going on.
Which was the future.
Right.
Yeah, it's so good. Like this game has this like flashback mechanic that you don't know about your past self, but over time you learn more about your past selves and you might remember things at different rates as your teammates. So like you might remember so, like, I was in love with this person, but they're like, not remembering that.
Well, right. And so like we're grappling with the fact that like you have remembered that you're in love with me. And I have already remembered that you let me down.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're trying to grapple with those emotions and so I think that was sort of the key feature for me that kind of we talked about sort of solidifying our brand and that kind of stuff, that this was a game that had magical girls.
Yep.
And like relationships and kissing and all that kind of stuff. But it also had the ability to be utterly heartbreaking.
Dramatic to the extreme. Absolutely.
Right, in a way that I absolutely love in my games.
Yeah.
And so I think that this one, for me, was a surprise. Like this was sort of a kind of snuck up on me that like the initial pitch for it, I was like, okay, like it's cool, but I don't know that it's for me. And I think that's a thing that we've really kind of learned on this show, is that there are times where the initial pitch for a game, you're like, okay, that's cool for other people. And then you sort of like start to dig into it and you're like, there's so much more here than what anybody can convey in a pitch for a game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that one was, I
like it.
Yes.
And then July. Under the Neighborhood with Kyle Decker, also designer of the game. This was such a delightful one. Like it's such a low like Hilda
low
level
stakes.
Stakes. It's like such a good premise for this game.
Yeah, so this is one that I was really excited about because the conceit behind it is sort of a play on, the sort of like two worlds, parallel universes kind of a thing, meant to sort of emulate things like the Owl House or Gravity Falls, Amphibia. So things where it's like there is a very mundane world and then there's also this magical world happening.
Which is also
at
mundane,
the same time,
right?
And sort of like going back and forth between those two.
Yeah. And like a lot of it is like where the magical world is just everything's normal there. It's just weird. Right.
So
like we came up with some phenomenal world building stuff for this. There was
one of the things that you roll in the very beginning is like, when is this happening, right?
Yes.
Is it in the future? Is it not in the future? And one of the things that you can roll is very specifically February 27th.
Something like that. Or February 23rd it might have been.
Maybe, something February 20-something. 1997, right? And so we rolled that very specific date. We're like, okay, what do we do with this? And it was very important to me almost instantly because I was like, well, there's no holiday right around there. It was very important to me that we have a belated Valentine's Day parade. And that be like the thing in our town.
Yeah.
Because we decided to create this small town, kind of middle of nowhere sort of place. Kyle is also from Wisconsin. He's from a town that is about like 15, 20 minutes or so from where I currently live. And, has been to the places, around here. So we wanted something like that.
Yeah, get those vibes in there.
And this feeling of like around here, the 4th of July parade is like the thing to be at.
Yeah.
And so we decided this belated Valentine's Day
Belated
parade.
Valentine's. And it was
in Hartford,
in
the town of Hartford.
Yeah.
Which is also very close to where Kyle and I grew up. Hartford is not far from here. So
it was hilarious. But then the magical portion of the world were floating sky islands.
Right. That were sort of mirrored these small towns.
Yeah.
So every small town in the world has a floating small town above it that is sky
version of that town, basically.
Sky Hartford.
So like magical creatures, like my character had a sky fox named Azura. So it's a regular fox except blue and white. And these creatures live underneath the islands and can kind of fly between their homesteads underneath the islands. So it's like you can just make up whatever.
Right. But that is not the important part of your character.
That is not
in my mind.
No, the important part of my character's name is Daisy Thunder, the magical girl who casts spells. And Daisy is a roller derby hopeful. She's going to college on a scholarship for the roller derby team, scouted from the Hartford High School team. The roller derby team's name, I believe, was the Hartford Heartthrobs, which is just fantastic.
Yes.
She eventually wanted to become like the champion of the Sky Hartford roller derby team. She wanted to like graduate to the magical roller derby stuff. So
I thought it was the other way around.
Maybe it was.
I don't remember. This was in July.
It was in July. But yeah, it was. So yeah, the magical girl, which is not a playbook that comes with the game, because again, we're talking about PBTA-esque like stuff here, mixed with Cypher system.
Right.
So it's kind of a blend of the two systems, which was really unique, and one of the things that we were really excited to kind of see how that worked before the episode recorded. But the magical girl is kind of like a bonus playbook that Kyle has tucked away in the Patreon. But knowing my nonsense.
Right, he did pull that out for you. Yeah,
I was very appreciative of that.
Yes,
but yeah, I could cast spells with my ankle bracelet, and one of them would let me fly. So like I could no, it was not fly. I could shift gravity, so I could like roller blade on the ceiling and stuff.
Yes, yeah. My character was Novella Bane. I did the Divided playbook. No, the Divided who was lost in the other. So I had this otherworldly patron that I had kind of made a deal with. And Novella did not read the fine print on that deal. No. So I was like, probably fine, no big deal. And it does come up in our fanfic that Kyle decided that my deity was Florida Man.
the Florida Man.
The Florida Man, the one and only. Kyle was a mom trainer who had a little gator named Johnny Gator, who levitated just like an inch off the ground and kicked his little gator legs. But importantly, Novella was terrified of Johnny Gator. Yeah, that was just a lot of fun. There was some great world building in that one. And I love that genre. My kids are super into those like TV shows. Star Wars: The Forces of Evil. We watched a lot of Gravity Falls. My kids went. All of us went actually as Gravity Falls characters for Halloween last year. I was Grunkle Stan. Oh, it's pretty great. So that was an exciting one for me. Absolutely.
And I took inspiration from the character I made for this series and played in a one-shot with Kyle and some others for International Podcast Month. Cool. So I've got a roller blading magical girl who can cast spells, but her spells were triggered by different cassette tapes that she put into a Walkman. So when she was listening to the Walkman songs, like if it was a song about flying, she could fly. If it was a song about like, shooting fireballs, which I don't think exists, but she could do
Goodness
things.
Gracious, great balls of fire.
There you go. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
It's just wild what you can do with this game. And it was a lot of fun to play, and it was a lot of fun to create characters with Kyle. Highly recommend this one again.
Definitely. August, we got to do a game that I was really excited about.
Yes.
This is one we had waited for because it wasn't any submission, and I had to wait until I was done.
Yeah.
With I'd submitted my things, and it was all out there. So we covered Nova.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little about Lumen with the designer Spencer Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
and this was one that I was really into. And I think over the course of talking with Spencer, I got like more and more excited about it. It's one that like, hey, if you're playing this game and you would like another player, please call me. I picked the Grimm playbook or character type and named Hades / Appetite. Right? The Spark. Yes, my Spark was the Grimm.
Yep.
And their thing is it's you are like you reanimate the dead.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of like puppet the dead and can control the things that you have already killed, which like that's my brand.
That's pretty cool.
It's my brand.
Yeah. And I took the other part of your brand. Mm-hmm. I played the Sanguine Spark, which was kind of like your vampire spark.
Yeah, you drain the life from things.
I like the gameplay in my brain felt extremely satisfying with the combinations that I chose for this, and I'm like, I want to experience being this brutal on the battlefield in a game that's such high energy like this.
Right. And I know later on we're going to kind of talk about our favorite things, and some of the mechanics in this game are my favorite. But it was really cool to see how the different sparks interact with each other.
Yeah.
And the way that abilities start to stack between characters so that you are kind of helping each other out. And you know, so it's like you start draining the life from things and killing them, and I can sort of puppet them, and you know, the way those things stack together.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool.
It was there was a moment, if you listen to the series, there's a moment in the series where like you can hear the light switch in my brain.
Yeah, you can just like hear things like kind of click into place.
Yeah. And like, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah, we're just like missing the sort of like ka-chunk sound.
Yeah.
Falls
and I know Spencer was like, and you have unlocked the puzzle that this game is. And I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. I really wish I had time, because I want so badly to make a magical girl version of this game and have it just be so hardcore with like themes of death and drama and like.
There's an SRD.
I know there is.
Illuminated by Lumen.
That's why I want to do it.
It's out there.
I just need time.
Maybe we can collaborate on that.
Let's do that, because that
game design is my bridge too far, and I don't do that. But
but you got good ideas.
Got them. They're brewing.
Let's talk.
Right.
We'll have to keep in contact somehow. Call to action.
Yeah, like that. I like that we got to sit down and do this one. I know that the original premise, I guess, for this one was just like, we don't have time.
We don't have time. No, we ran out of time and energy because I had some family stuff that came up that basically sucked away all possibilities for planning a January series. So we said, hey, let's do this together and see what happens. We were originally planning to do this in person.
Yeah, we were going to get together, and then my car got a flat tire.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get it into it. I just got it fixed yesterday. And then I had to have another ECT treatment.
Yep.
And like, it just was, December was a thing.
We both had a very busy December. So we hope that you enjoy what's going on in this series. We had a lot of fun reminiscing about all the stuff that we did in 2022. And it was a lot.
It was. We went back and like listened to clips of stuff because we were making our list and we're like, what did we do for that?
Yeah.
Which characters did we make? I don't even remember. So we were going back and listening to some clips together too, and it was so much fun to be like, oh yeah. So we hope that you have the same experience, that you get to relive some of the joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of clips, we're going to be putting together a nice little clip show that will be either releasing this Thursday or next week Thursday. Haven't really decided on which one I'm going to throw it at yet, but we'll see. So stay tuned for that as well, because it should be a lot of fun to hear some of the fun stuff that we created last year as told by us and our guests.
Yeah, I'm really excited because when I was going through and cutting those clips, it was like, oh yeah. Gosh, I'm hilarious. For 2023, though, we are working on putting out a newsletter. We're still figuring out all of the behind the scenes stuff, like how to get everybody to sign up and how distribution will work and kind of what format we want to put everything in. I've mostly got it. But as soon as we have a solid solution for people to subscribe, we will let you know, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. In addition to signing up for our newsletter later, you can sign up for our Patreon right now. All patrons will get access to some bonus chit-chat episodes where we talk about whatever is on our minds at the time. It is a lot of fun, and we hope it lets you get to know us a bit better. In addition to that, however, you can sign up for higher tiers to get access to early release episodes, bonus episodes you won't hear anywhere else, or even monthly Zoom chats with us and other patrons at that level, which have been absolutely a blast.
They've been so much fun. I was admittedly a little bit worried that it would be awkward because sometimes that stuff is, especially online, because you're kind of looking at each other and you don't know. It's harder to pick up the social cues and stuff.
Yes.
But they've just been so much fun. We've had some of the weirdest conversations and it's just great. It's great. We're really enjoying it.
It certainly goes places, and it also unlocks a special Discord room just for that level, where we can put all sorts of the random stuff that we're talking about. You probably have seen that as a patron before in the patron only chat rooms. But we've kind of moved that to its own place so we don't confuse everybody else.
Yeah, with just random links to things and yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So check that out and consider helping us out.
In addition to those perks and other ones, we also like to thank all of our patrons personally. We are so grateful for all of you that are able to help us out this way. Your support helps us afford making this show, and we are over halfway to our goal of covering all of our costs right now, so it's exciting. So, without further ado, Lieutenant, thank you so much.
DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, thanks for your continued support.
Eric Bonts, we are so grateful to you.
Matt Newton, thank you so much.
Shadim Cabal, thank you.
Daryl Holiday II, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
The Shyest Barbarian, thank you so much for your continued support and for all of the fun in some of our Zoom chats.
Absolutely. Benjamin Sweeney, we can't thank you enough, but we'll keep trying anyway.
Thank you to Lorcan McGinnis.
We're glad to have you here, Rob Fletcher. Thanks for supporting.
Thank you, Kevin Brown. Your support brings us so much joy.
Tentacle Duck, you shouldn't have, but we are absolutely glad that you did.
John Adamus, thank you so much for your continued support and for the detailed instructions on how to build a guillotine.
Yep, if you know, you know. And thank you, A3 Sketchpad. Your support brings us so much joy, so thank you.
And thank you to all of our potential future patrons. We really do appreciate it.
And before we let you go for the day, there is another way that you can help us out that doesn't cost any money. And that's by leaving us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Facebook, or a rating on Spotify. They don't have reviews, but they do have ratings. I'm sure that helps.
You can give us some stars.
Yeah, you can give us some stars.
I like stars.
That's nice.
A little star on our sticker chart.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Every one of these does help new folks find the show, and it makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, which we desperately need here in Wisconsin in the middle of winter. And we do have a new review for you today. I'm very excited for this one. This one comes from a listener in the United States in iTunes, titled The Best Show. This podcast has two excellent co-hosts who have some of the best chemistry in podcasting. It is great to hear them become better and better friends over the course of the show. The discussions are always lively and informative. The guests always offer brilliant insights, and the games they cover show the depth and breadth of the TTRPG hobby. They have so much helpful advice on making your home games as great as possible, and the deep dives into game design and the relationship between mechanics and narrative is fascinating. Character creation is usually the first contact people have with a game, but so many actual play shows don't share their process. This is a niche that definitely needed to be filled, and they do a fantastic job. Well, Thank you so much for that review, Ginger Reckoning, whomever you may be.
That's a really nice review.
I did say, if you wrote a review, Amelia, I would read it. And
did you?
I did.
So now someone's going to go in there and realize that I have left a review and my son has left a review. And hey, if that's not nepotism,
you know what? Your son's review was unprompted and it's fine.
That's true. And his was nice and concise.
Absolutely. So thank you, Amelia, for not only being a co-host, but also a fan.
Yeah. That is all we have for today's episode. Join us next time as we recap September through December, as well as covering all of the spotlights and bonus episodes we've done in the past year. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay safe, drink some water, get warm or continue being warm if you're already somewhere that isn't frozen. And keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Antrim, and I can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning, or on my other podcast, Garbage of the Five Rings. Our other host, Ryan Boelter, can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast it originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by the absolutely fantastic Ryan Boelter. Further information for the game system used in today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much, much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.